So this evening, on the little spiel, those of you who received the email, I spoke or wrote a little bit about shifting perspective. There's something about the way in which we pray often or meditate in these that is a shifting of perspective that can sort of open up new possibilities that weren't maybe present before. And the way in which we're going to, I guess, get a different perspective this evening is by looking to one of our fellow creatures, the humble bee. So we're going to be spending a little time with the wisdom of bees. Now, Saint Ignatius, who is the founder of this kind of way of doing things, he's associated with many things, but he's often not kind of noticed as a nature mystic, but my sense is at least that that's definitely a real part of who he was, that there was something about tuning into the natural world that for Ignatius was a way to tune into the divine, God, mystery. And it writes in his autobiography quite sweetly, I think, that he felt deeply moved by gazing at the sky and the stars, which he did often and for quite a long time. That's verbatim in his autobiography. So there's something about, being present to this big night sky that does something in Ignatius, or indeed allows God to do something in Ignatius, maybe. And he encourages us to pay attention to this God who is sort of right at our fingertips, indeed even closer possibly than the ends of our fingertips. He speaks about a God who dwells in creatures, in the elements giving being, in the plants giving growth, and also in me, giving me being, life and sensation. This is a kind of image of a mystery which sort of pulses at the heart of things, giving and sustaining life, pumping blood around our bodies, drawing the rising sap in plants in spring, or indeed drawing it back down in the autumn where we are now, working through these sort of seasonal cycles of life and death and rebirth, new life. So very, very kind of, incarnate, embedded in all of these life processes that are going on within and around us all the time. And if that's the case, then presumably we can learn something about this, this mystery of God through paying attention to those life processes and how they work, both within us and without us, or outside of us. And this is mainly inspired by me having made a retreat not too long ago where bees were a very prevalent feature. The bee was the way in which I was experiencing this mystery at the heart of the universe that we might call God. So we're gonna play around with that today. Just before I begin, in case any of you aren't intimately acquainted with bees, I'm gonna share screen. And I've just got some images to get our imaginative juices started. Bear with me one sec. Can I get a nod if people can see a picture of a bee? There's a nod, great. So yeah, I've just got a couple of images, some of which are specifically mentioned in the guided meditation. So one of them, thanks Sheila for your thumbs up, is this little kind of globule of powdery pollen that you can kind of see on the leg of the bee in this picture. There's like a little packet of something. This is the pollen that bees gather as they go around drinking nectar, and it just attaches to their legs and they take it back to the hive as they go about their working day. This is incredibly intricate. I mean, my eyes can't see bees this closely and in this much detail, but you know, they're furry for a start. You could stroke them if they got close enough. This is a bee face. Looks a little alien, but those eyes, the kind of, you know, hundreds and thousands maybe even of the little sections of their eyes. Antenna. Again, this is gathering something, these forager bees en route back home maybe. And then these little, like, I think it's actually a nose, and then inside the nose is a surprisingly long tongue that is designed to get into the middles of flowers where all the delicious nectar is kept. I may have another photo of that as well, I can't remember. Ah, yes, so a slightly different angle, almost designed to be, to meet the particular plants that they go to, the particular flowers that they go to. So just some images to whet your appetite. Oh, sorry about the crash. Yeah, but as ever, feel free to turn off your screens if you would like to, and find a posture, maybe the posture you were in before when you were tuning into yourself, but a posture that's comfortable, supported, helps you to be sort of present for the next little while. And closing your eyes might be useful, or finding a point to focus on. And then again, just tuning into that, how are you at the moment, briefly, that you've already spent a little bit of time with. Maybe we can do a bit of a body scan this evening, just to bring our whole selves into this time of meditation. So taking your attention down to your feet, and just noticing the sensations there, the feeling of the support of the ground underneath you, maybe the temperature, the feeling of your socks or shoes, or maybe your feet are open to the air. Just noticing the sensations in your feet. And noticing how those sensations change as you pay attention to them. Do they shift? And then beginning to slowly move up the body. So to the calves and shins, the lower leg. Just noticing and receiving the sensations that are there. And past the knees, and the upper legs. Might feel the support of the seat underneath you, the weight of gravity holding you. And then round to your back, which also might be supported, feeling the points of contact with the chair or the wall. And scanning the whole length of it, right from the base of your spine all the way up to your shoulders. And if you're noticing any tension or strain, maybe just breathing into that or wriggling it a little, loosening it off. Whatever movement or action feels kind to that part of you. And then back down to the front, your stomach. You might feel the inhale and exhale as it pushes it out. And then as it comes back inwards on the exhale. Continuing up to the chest, the ribs. Feeling the lungs expand and retract. You might even be able to feel your heartbeat. And then up to your arms. Feel the way they hang from your shoulders. And the sensations all the way down your arm. Right through to the hands, the palms, the fingers. And then further up to the throat and the neck. And the muscles in the face. Loosening them off. The jaw, allowing it to just relax and maybe drop a little. Easing the cheek muscles. Relaxing the eyes and the eyebrows. And loosening off the forehead. And then finally the back and the top of your head, the sensations you can feel there. And then, as always, taking a moment, having sort of tuned into ourselves, to notice how is this God who dwells in all things, giving and sustaining all these life processes, how is that God present to you here and now? And just see what comes to your imagination or your bodily senses in response to that question. How is God present to you here and now? And as we've said, there's a wisdom in the natural world that the mystics seem to tune into and experience. So for this time of meditation, in your own words, ask for something of a willingness to learn from the wisdom of the natural world as it's revealed to you. And then to begin with, allow your imagination to start forming a scene of a place full of various flowering plants. And they might be wild flowers like daisies, columbines, harebells, cornflowers, bluebells, forget-me-nots. They might be trees in blossom earlier in the season, hawthorn maybe, elder, other fruiting trees. These are all particular to Britain, so if you're not in Britain, you'll have your own. And maybe they're flowering so-called weeds, like dandelions. We have a very large thistle patch that the bees have been loving in our home this year. So just allowing a scene to come to mind. It might be somewhere you know, it might be one you're just imagining, but somewhere where there's flowers that would attract bees. And what's coming into your imagination? And beginning to also put yourself into that scene if you haven't already, and tune in with all of your senses. So what can you see around you? Colors, textures, movement. What are the fragrances present? If you were to reach out your hands, what would you be able to touch or feel? And really get into the detail of that, the texture, the softness, the hardness, the temperature. Does it move under your touch, or is it solid? Maybe if you're sitting in a field of wildflowers, you can feel the grass underneath your fingers as you lean back. There might even be flavors in the air. Or maybe you're eating a picnic. And just notice, are the flowers and plants around you ones that you recognize and can name, or are they unfamiliar? So now maybe allowing your attention to hone in a little bit, move in a bit closer and pay attention to all of the insect life present in this field, including the bees. What are you seeing or noticing? Which creatures are around? The sense of this place being a hive of activity, whether we are quite aware of it or not. And now honing in one more time, this time to pay attention particularly to the bees. And notice how they're moving from flower head to flower head. And what's their flight like in between? How does it seem to you? And then you notice each time they land on a flower, they go straight for the center where the flower keeps its delicious sweet nectar. And you might even imagine being so close up as to see their tongues, which can be really quite long, reaching in to drink that sweet nectar before moving on to the next flower head. And there's a fun fact I learnt. Bees have smelly feet, and they can recognize their own foot smell from other bees, so they know if they've already been to a flower or not. So as you're watching these bees go from flower to flower, notice that each time they drink from a flower, they leave with this little clump of yellow pollen attached to their back legs, like we saw in the image, like little sacks of bright yellow powder. And they kind of pick it up as they're moving their legs around the flower to position themselves for the drinking. And the dust from the flower brushes onto their legs and sticks there, so that when they move to the next flower, they deposit some of the pollen on it. And so the pattern goes. The bee finding the sweetness in the flower, moving its legs around, and both gathering and depositing pollen. And what are you feeling as you watch these bees going about their lives? What's catching your attention?
It seems like in just being bees, in being unutterably themselves, they are seeking out their own nourishment, the nectar of the flowers, which they take back to make honey. And in the process of that, almost inadvertently bringing life and nourishment to the flowers themselves, who could not reproduce, who could not live without the bees pollinating them. So in living, they are giving life, and in taking, they are giving back. I wonder what might you be noticing of the ways of God in paying attention to these creatures. And where in your life or in the world do you notice this pattern of giving and receiving in the way that we creatures, humanity, live? And also maybe noticing in your own life and in the world, where is it missing? Where does your taking leave others without? And where is your giving conditional rather than free? And how might you live and move and have your being more like a bee? Or maybe you're resonating more with the flowers or some other part. I'm just going to leave it a little bit of time for you to be in that field with these bees going about their life-giving business, and also with the God who is present in and with and through them and you. And maybe you're having a conversation with a friend about what's emerged, or just spending time together. But allow your imagination to be surprised by how God might be present to you. Might be human, might be a bee, the flower, the ground beneath your feet, or something else. So just spend some time with that God in whatever way your imagination works. And then in your own time, taking your leave of that place, those bees, the God who dwells in them, and giving thanks for whatever has or hasn't happened, just for showing up. And bring yourself back into this time and this space with these fellow people.